I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. I've always been the kind of guy who believed in love, loyalty, and the sanctity of marriage. My wife Sarah and I had been together for 8 years, and we'd built a life that I thought was solid. We had our ups and downs, sure, but nothing that felt insurmountable. Or so I thought. Things started to feel off a few months ago. It was subtle at first, like a whisper in the back of my mind. Sarah began working late at the office more often, and when she'd come home, she'd be exhausted but wouldn't want to talk about her day. I brushed it off as just stress from her job. After all, she was a busy marketing executive and the company had been pushing hard for new campaigns. But there were little signs that I couldn't ignore. She started dressing differently, more provocatively, in a way that felt out of character for her. New clothes, more makeup, and she began spending more time on her appearance. I remember thinking how great she looked, but there was a nagging feeling in my gut. I'd ask if everything was all right, and she'd always brush it off with a smile and some excuse about projects at work or planning for the office party. I wanted to believe her, I really did. One night I noticed a familiar scent on her shirt as she got ready for bed. It was cologne, not mine. It was a scent that I recognized all too well, one that I had once worn when I was trying to impress her during our dating years. I'd even caught a whiff of it on her before, always when she came home late from work. I shook off the thought. It was too much to consider. I was being paranoid, right? But that subtle smell nagged at me, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very wrong. A few weeks later, on an ordinary Tuesday evening, I came home early from work to surprise her. I was excited to see her, to spend some quality time together. As I stepped into our apartment, I was greeted by an unusual silence. The lights were dimmed, and I could see her purse on the kitchen counter, but she wasn't home. I glanced at my watch. She was supposed to be back. Now, I decided to wait. After about an hour, she finally walked in, looking flustered. Her hair was slightly messy, and she had that same cologne scent clinging to her shirt. I felt my heart racing as I caught her eye. There was something different in her gaze, a flicker of panic that vanished just as quickly as it appeared. She smiled brightly, too brightly, and said she'd just gotten stuck in traffic. It was the same excuse again. I wanted to believe her, but I couldn't ignore the feelings roiling inside me. The next few days were filled with anxiety and doubt. I began to notice more signs: her phone usage, the way she would suddenly guard it with her life. She'd leave the room when texts came in, turning her screen away from me. I tried to dismiss it, but the pieces began to come together in a way I couldn't ignore. I felt like a detective, piecing together a puzzle that was starting to take shape, and I didn't like the picture it was forming. Then came the day that shattered my world. I decided to dig a little deeper and went through her things while she was in the shower. I found her phone lying on the bed and I hesitated before picking it up. I knew I shouldn't, but my heart was pounding and I couldn't help myself. I unlocked it and there it was, a message thread with a guy named Mark. The texts were flirtatious at best and downright explicit at worst. My heart sank as I read through their exchanges. They had been meeting up, having sex, and making plans to see each other again. The ground beneath me felt like it was crumbling away. I dropped the phone as if it were hot coal. I felt sick to my stomach. I didn't want to believe it, but there it was, the evidence I had been dreading to find. I could hear the water still running in the shower, and I knew I had to confront her. I felt a mixture of anger and heartbreak brewing inside me, and I wasn't sure how I was going to handle it. I just knew that I couldn't let this go unanswered. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself for what was about to come. Confronting Sarah was like stepping onto a battlefield. I planned to ask her about Mark, to lay everything out and see if she would come clean. But deep down, I knew she'd lie. She was good at that. And I was ready for her to spin whatever tale she had concocted. I steeled myself for the fight ahead, knowing that my world was about to be turned upside down. When she finally emerged from the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, I could see the surprise on her face. She had that fresh, post-shower glow, but it felt like a mask on top of the storm brewing beneath the surface. I stood there, heart racing, trying to find the words that would convey what I was feeling without letting my anger take control. "Sarah, we need to talk," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Her eyes darted to mine, and I could see the moment she realized I'd found something. There was a flicker of panic again, and that familiar smile fell from her face. What's wrong? She asked, feigning innocence, but I could sense her heart was racing too. Don't play games with me. I found your messages with Mark, I said, my voice firm but laced with the tremors of disbelief and betrayal. She froze, her expression shifting from confusion to guilt in a heartbeat. I waited for her to deny it, to come up with some excuse, but instead she just stood there, her eyes searching mine as if weighing her options. Okay, I can explain, she finally said, her voice shaky. It's not what you think, not what I think. I couldn't help but scoff. You're having an affair, Sarah. How could it possibly be anything else? She sighed, running a hand through her damp hair, the towel slipping slightly. It's complicated. I was feeling neglected, and Mark, he was there for me when you were. Neglected, I echoed, feeling the anger surge within me. You think I'm not here for you? I work hard to provide for us. Is that not enough? It's not just about that, she said, her tone shifting to something more defensive. You've been distant, and I didn't know how to reach you. Mark was just a friend. He listened to me when I was struggling. A friend who you're having sex with, I shot back, feeling the betrayal wrap around my heart like a vice. You were supposed to talk to me, Sarah. That's what marriage is about. She looked away, her voice dropping to a whisper. I made a mistake. It started off innocent, but we connected on a level I didn't expect. I thought I could control it, but it spiraled. Control it, I thundered. You think you can control an affair? This isn't just a mistake. I felt the heat of rage coursing through my veins, the hurt morphing into fury. Every little moment I'd brushed off, every excuse she'd made suddenly crystallized into this moment of heartbreaking clarity. I wanted to scream, to break everything in sight, to take her to task for the pain she had caused. But instead, I felt a kind of numbness threatening to take over. I can end it, she pleaded, her eyes glistening with tears. Please, just give me a chance to fix this. I love you, I do. I wanted to believe her, but the weight of her betrayal hung heavily in the air between us. You love me, I repeated, incredulous. You love me, and yet you're out sleeping with someone else. How does that even make sense, Sarah? She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. I could see her struggling, the facade of confidence she'd built crumbling. In that moment, I didn't want to hear her excuses or her lies. I felt trapped in a whirlwind of emotions, anger, heartbreak, disbelief. I don't know what to say, she said finally, her voice breaking. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't cut it, I replied, my voice low but firm. You broke my trust, and I don't know if I can ever get it back. I watched as she sank onto the edge of our bed, her head buried in her hands. I could feel the weight of the silence pressing down on us. My heart was pounding, and I felt lost in a sea of uncertainty. Would I ever be able to forgive her? Could we ever go back to the way things were? In the days that followed, I was a whirlwind of emotions. I felt like I was on a roller coaster ride that wouldn't end. I oscillated between rage and despair, often finding myself questioning everything I thought. I knew about our marriage. I loved Sarah, but the betrayal felt like a knife twisting deeper into my gut every time I even thought about her. Her attempts to reach out were met with cold responses. She tried to talk over dinner, hopping to mend what was broken, but I often found myself paralyzed by the weight of her words. I'll do anything to fix this, she'd say, but I was skeptical. How could I trust her again? It was during one of those long, sleepless nights that I realized I had to make a decision. I could either wallow in pain, allowing this betrayal to consume me, or I could take control of my own life. But what did that look like? Would I fight for our marriage, or would I choose to walk away from the woman who had shattered my heart? Every evening I wrestled with the thoughts and memories we'd built together. I pored over our history, the laughter, the love, the dreams we had shared. Yet with each recollection, I felt the bitter sting of her infidelity overshadowing everything else. The memories felt tainted now, like a cherished photograph that had been splattered with mud. I knew I had to figure out what I wanted for my future. The life we had was built on trust, and now that foundation felt shattered. Could I rebuild it? And at what cost? As I lay awake in bed, staring at the ceiling, I couldn't shake the feeling of betrayal that had settled deep within me. The clock ticked away the seconds, and with every tick, I felt the weight of my decision pressing down harder on my chest. It was exhausting, trying to navigate through the fog of emotions swirling around me. One night, after another awkward conversation with Sarah, I decided to go for a late-night drive to clear my head. I ended up parked by the lakeside, the moonlight dancing on the water's surface. I thought about everything, our past, the love we had, and the love that had been shattered. I clutched the steering wheel tightly, my knuckles turning white as I wrestled with the thoughts screaming in my mind. I realized I didn't want to live my life in this limbo, stuck between love and anger. I needed clarity, and I needed to confront the reality of my situation. I had to decide if I wanted to fight for what we had or if I was ready to walk away and start anew. But what would that mean for me? What would it mean for Sarah? When I returned home, it was late and Sarah was waiting for me in the living room, her face drawn with worry. I could see she had been crying. As I stepped inside, I felt a mix of anger and sympathy. We were both victims of our choices, but only one of us had betrayed the other. "Where did you go?" she asked, her voice shaky. I was worried. "I needed some air," I replied curtly, avoiding her gaze. "We need to talk about what's going to happen next." She nodded slowly, her eyes wide with apprehension. "Okay, I'm ready to talk. I'll do whatever it takes to fix things, I promise." "I'm not sure that's enough, Sarah," I said, my voice low but firm. "You broke my trust, and trust is the foundation of any relationship. It's not something that can just be fixed with promises." "I know," she said, her voice filled with regret. "I messed up. I was weak and stupid. Please just give me a chance to show you how much I care. I don't want to lose you." That word "lose" hit me like a punch in the gut. I didn't want to lose her either, but the hurt was still fresh and the memories of her betrayal felt like a festering wound that wouldn't heal. "How do I know you won't do it again? How do I know Mark isn't still in the picture?" "He's not," she insisted, her eyes pleading. "I ended it, I swear. It was just a mistake, a moment of weakness that I regret every day. Please believe me, I want us to work. I love you." "I wish I could believe you," I said, my heart aching. "But right now it feels like every word you say is just another lie." "I'm not lying," she said, her voice rising with frustration. "You have to understand, I've been through so much and I felt alone. I thought you didn't care anymore. I didn't want to feel like this." "Then why didn't you talk to me?" I asked, desperate for an answer. "Why didn't you come to me when you were feeling this way? We could have worked through it together." "I know," she said, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I should have, but I didn't know how to reach out. I thought I could handle it. I thought it was just a phase." "Is that how you see our marriage, as a phase?" I shot back, unable to hide my anger. "Because that's what it feels like to me. You could have come to me. You should have come to me." "I didn't mean it like that," she cried. I do know. I made a terrible mistake, and now I'm here, willing to do whatever it takes to prove to you that I'm still the woman you fell in love with." As she spoke, I felt my defenses softening just a little. I could see the desperation in her eyes and the way her body trembled with emotion. But the part of me that felt betrayed still held strong. Every moment of doubt and insecurity still loomed large. "What do you want from me?" I asked, my voice quieting down as I realized the depth of our situation. "What can I give you that would validate your love for me? Can I just forget what you did?" Sarah's face fell as she realized the depth of my struggles. "I don't expect you to forget. I just want the chance to earn your trust back. I'll do anything. Therapy, weekends away, whatever it takes. I love you and I'm committed to making this right." I thought for a moment, weighing her words against the pain I felt. I didn't want to abandon the years we had spent together, the laughter, the shared dreams. But could I really get past the betrayal? Could I ever trust her again? "I need time," I finally said. "I can't make a decision right now. I need to think about everything." She nodded, her expression resigned. "I understand. Just know I'm here and I'm willing to fight for us." As I turned to walk away, I felt the weight of my decision hanging heavy in the air. I had a long road ahead of me, and I wasn't sure where it would lead. But for the first time since discovering her betrayal, I felt a flicker of hope, the possibility of a future, no matter how uncertain or complicated. But as I lay in bed that night, the question still lingered. Could love really triumph over betrayal? Would I find a way to mend what was broken, or was I destined to walk away from the woman I thought I knew? I didn't have the answers yet, but I knew one thing for certain. I couldn't allow myself to be a victim anymore. If I was going to move forward, I needed to take back control of my own life. The following days were turbulent, filled with a mixture of hope and despair. Sarah tried her best to show me her commitment to our marriage, making small changes in her behavior and reaching out for the conversations I had longed for. But every time she smiled, I felt that familiar pang of betrayal creeping back into my heart. Trust was a fragile thing, and ours had been shattered. I began to consider the idea of marriage counseling. It was something I had once dismissed, thinking that we could work out our issues on our own. But now, with the weight of her infidelity hanging over us, I realized we needed guidance. We couldn't navigate this turbulent sea alone. I suggested the idea to Sarah one evening after dinner. We were sitting at the table and she could see the apprehension etched on my face. "I think we should see a therapist," I said, trying to sound casual, but my voice betrayed me. Her eyes lit up with understanding. "I think that's a great idea," she exclaimed, her enthusiasm palpable. "I want to do everything I can to help us heal. I'll even find someone to start seeing as soon as possible." And just like that, the first glimmer of hope flickered in my heart. Maybe this was what we needed, a neutral party to help us dig through the rubble of our relationship. We spent the next few days researching therapists and finally settled on one who specialized in infidelity and rebuilding trust. I could barely believe I was taking this step, but I knew it was necessary if we were to have any chance at mending our broken bond. The first session was nerve-wracking. Sitting in the therapist's office, I felt the weight of my shame, anger, and fear pressing down on me. Sarah, on the other hand, seemed more composed, ready to take responsibility for her actions. The therapist, Dr. Jessica, was warm and calming, and she encouraged us to share our feelings openly. "Why don't we start with you, Sarah?" she said, looking directly at my wife. "What do you feel led you to seek comfort outside your marriage?" I watched Sarah's expression shift, her vulnerability laid bare before both the therapist and me. "I felt neglected," she began, her voice wavering. "I thought I could manage my feelings on my own, but I felt increasingly isolated. Mark was there, and I allowed myself to be swept up in the attention. I wasn't thinking about the consequences." Dr. Jessica nodded, urging her to continue. "And how has this affected your relationship with your husband?" "I know I've hurt him deeply," she admitted, tears brimming in her eyes. "I regret my actions every day. I love him and I never wanted to hurt him. I didn't know how to communicate my feelings." The session continued, with each of us taking turns to express our thoughts and feelings. I shared my perspective on the betrayal, the pain I felt when I discovered her affair, and my struggle to trust her again. As I spoke, I found myself tearing up, the emotions spilling over. I realized how deeply this had affected me, my self-esteem, my sense of security, and my faith in love. The session ended with Dr. Jessica suggesting we work on communication skills and honesty moving forward. I left feeling a strange mix of relief and apprehension. Had we taken the first step toward healing? Or was it merely a band-aid on a much deeper wound? In the days that followed, we made it a point to check in with each other more often. Sarah started to share her feelings more openly, and I found myself responding with more empathy than I thought I had left. We were both trying, and that effort counted for something. But there were still moments of doubt. Every time Sarah's phone buzzed, my heart would race, wondering if it was Mark or if she was hiding something else. I hated feeling like this, but I couldn't help it. The trust was still fragile, and the pain from her betrayal lingered like a shadow. One evening, after another counseling session, I decided to open up about my fears. "I don't want to spend the rest of my life feeling like this, Sarah," I said, my voice shaky. "What if I can never trust you again? What if I'm always looking over my shoulder?" She reached for my hand, squeezing it tightly. "I don't want that either. I want to prove to you that I'm committed to this. I'll do whatever it takes to show you I can be trustworthy again. Can you?" I challenged gently, feeling a mix of hope and doubt. "Can you really change your behavior and the way you communicate? Because that's what I need to see." "I can," she said earnestly, her eyes locking onto mine with determination. "I'm in this for the long haul. I want to rebuild what we had brick by brick, even if it takes time." As the days turned into weeks, we continued to attend counseling and communicate more openly. Slowly but surely, I began to notice some changes. Sarah was more attentive, and I felt the weight of her guilt lifting just a little bit. She made efforts to include me in her life more, inviting me out with her friends and sharing more of her daily thoughts. But the road to recovery wasn't linear. There were still moments of tension when I would catch her glancing at her phone, or when she'd receive a text and instinctively hide it. Each time, I felt my heart drop, and I couldn't help but wonder if I'd ever fully escaped the shadow of her betrayal. I began journaling, pouring my feelings onto the page as a way to process everything I was going through. It became a therapeutic outlet for me, a place where I could express my fears and frustrations without fear of judgment. I wrote about the love I still had for Sarah, the memories I cherished, and the dreams I hoped we could still build together. But more than anything, I wrote about my anger. I needed to confront it, to face the hurt head-on. I knew I couldn't let it fester. It would only poison my heart and our relationship. I began to realize that healing would take time, not just for me but for both of us. As our counseling sessions progressed, I found a renewed sense of hope. Maybe we could rebuild our love brick by brick. Maybe we could come out stronger on the other side. But would I ever fully escape the pain of her betrayal? I didn't have the answer yet, but I was willing to find out. I had taken back some control over my life, but the journey was far from over. The path ahead remained uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, I felt ready to face it head-on. As weeks turned into months, the shadow of betrayal lingered, but I focused on the glimmers of hope that had begun to emerge in my relationship with Sarah. Our counseling sessions became a regular part of our lives, and I found comfort in the structured conversations that helped us navigate the murky waters of our marriage. I began to see small changes in Sarah, her willingness to communicate openly, her efforts to prioritize our relationship, and the way she took responsibility for her actions. But despite these changes, the scars from her betrayal were still fresh. I often found myself wrestling with feelings of jealousy and insecurity. Every time I heard her phone buzz, a knot would form in my stomach. What if it's Mark? I would think, even though logically I knew she had cut ties with him. My mind would spiral, replaying memories of the hurt I had endured and the trust that had been so brutally broken. One evening after dinner, Sarah suggested we take a walk to ease the tension. The night was cool, and the air was crisp as we strolled through the nearby park, the moonlight filtering through the trees. I felt a sense of calm wash over me as we walked side by side, but the unease was still there, lurking just beneath the surface. As we reached a secluded bench, Sarah sat down and I followed suit. She turned to me, her eyes searching mine. "I know things haven't been perfect, and I know that trust takes time to rebuild," she said softly. "But I'm committed to making this work, and I need you to know that I'm here for you." I nodded, appreciating her words, and yet a part of me felt as though we were standing on unstable ground. I wanted to believe her, but the fear was still there, lingering like a shadow. "I just don't know if I can ever fully trust you again," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "I understand," she replied, her tone sincere. "I'll keep proving to you that I'm trustworthy. No more secrets, no more lies. I want to be the wife you deserve." That was the moment I realized we were at a crossroads. I could either choose to continue living in a state of uncertainty, allowing my fears to consume me, or I could take a leap of faith and truly commit to rebuilding our marriage. It was a terrifying thought, but I knew it was necessary if we wanted to move forward. "I want to try," I said finally, my heart racing. "I want to believe that we can fix this, but I need you to be patient with me. I'm still working through my feelings." Sarah reached for my hand, squeezing it gently. "I'll be patient, I promise. We're in this together." As time went on, I made a conscious effort to work through my emotions. I continued journaling, allowing myself to process the pain and anger that bubbled to the surface. It was cathartic, a way to release the toxicity that had begun to build up inside me. I wrote about my feelings of inadequacy, my fears of losing Sarah, and my hopes for the future. One evening, while reflecting on my thoughts, I decided to confront my insecurities head-on. I asked Sarah to join me in a heart-to-heart conversation, and she agreed, a look of curiosity on her face. "Sarah, can we talk about something important?" I began, my voice steady. "I want to dig into my feelings because I think it's essential for both of us. There are still moments when I feel like I'm walking on eggshells, and I don't want to live like that." Her expression softened and she nodded. "Of course, I want to hear what you're feeling." "I think part of me is still afraid that I'm not enough for you," I confessed, my heart racing. I keep worrying that you'll find someone else and leave me again. I want to believe that you love me, but I can't shake that fear." Sarah's eyes widened with empathy and she took a deep breath. "I'm so sorry for making you feel that way. You mean everything to me, and I never want you to feel less than that. I know it's hard to see me as the same person you once loved, but I want to show you that I can be better." "I want that too," I replied, my voice breaking slightly. "But it's going to take time. I don't want to rush into things when I'm still processing my feelings." "I get it," she said softly. "Let's take our time. I'm here for the long haul, and I'll do whatever it takes to show you how much I care." In that moment, I felt a flicker of hope igniting within me. Maybe there was a path forward for us, a way to navigate the complexities of our relationship while still honoring our individual journeys. I realized that healing wouldn't happen overnight, but with each honest conversation, each small gesture of love, we could begin to rebuild what had been lost. As we continued to work on our marriage, I noticed that my feelings of anxiety and jealousy began to ebb, though they were slow to fade. I found myself focusing more on the present, savoring the moments we shared. Whether it was a simple dinner at home or an afternoon stroll in the park, I started to appreciate the little things, the way she laughed, how she still knew how to make me smile, and the warmth of her touch. But just as I began to feel a renewed sense of stability, life threw us another curveball. One evening, as I was winding down for bed, I received a text message from an unknown number. My heart raced as I opened it, only to find a message that sent a chill down my spine. "I miss you, Sarah. Can we talk?" I felt the room spinning, the ground beneath me shifting once again. My heart raced as I realized that Mark was back in the picture, and my worst fears had come true. Everything I had worked on, every step we had taken to rebuild our marriage felt like it was crumbling in an instant. I stood frozen, staring at the screen in disbelief, feeling the walls closing in around me. Would I be forced to confront the betrayal all over again? Would Sarah be able to resist the temptation of the past, or would we fall apart once more? I had no answers, only the confusion and heartache that had plagued me for months. As I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at that message, I felt a surge of anger and betrayal wash over me. I knew I had to confront Sarah, but how could I do that without losing everything I had fought so hard to rebuild? The thought of losing her again felt unbearable, but I couldn't ignore the truth any longer. I had to face it head on. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the conversation that was about to come. I would confront her about Mark. I would demand the truth, no matter how painful it might be. This time I would not be silenced. I would take control of my life and my heart. The next morning I knew the confrontation was inevitable. I had to find out if Sarah was still in contact with Mark, or if that message was just a weak attempt at stirring up old feelings. I had fought too hard to let the past dictate my present, and I would not allow it to ruin our future. I could feel the storm brewing inside me. But I had to be strong. I had to seek clarity, whether it led to healing or heartbreak. It was time to face the music. Morning arrived with a heavy fog, both outside and within me. I could feel the anxiety gnawing at my insides as I prepared for the conversation. I knew it was a pivotal moment for our marriage, and I had to approach it with clarity and strength. We had come so far, and now I was faced with a potential setback that could undo everything. After breakfast, I took a deep breath and confronted Sarah in the living room. "We need to talk," I said, my voice steady despite the turmoil I felt inside. Her eyes widened, the lightness of the morning atmosphere replaced by an imminent heaviness. "What's wrong?" "I received a text last night from Mark," I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. "He wants to talk to you." The color drained from her face, and I watched as she processed my words. I don't know what to say." "Are you still in contact with him?" I pressed, my heart pounding in my chest. "Because if you're trying to hide this from me again, we're going to have a serious problem." "No, I swear," she said, her voice rising in panic. "I haven't talked to him since I ended things. I thought he was done too. I didn't think he would reach out again." "Then why the message?" I asked, frustration bubbling up. "It feels like you're still connected to him somehow, and I need to know if I can trust you." "I promise I'm not interested in him anymore," Sarah pleaded, tears welling in her eyes. I've been focusing on us. I thought we were making progress. I didn't want to bring him up again because I thought it was behind us. I felt my heart clench at her desperation, but the hurt was still fresh. But it's not behind us if he's trying to come back into your life, I countered. This isn't just about your feelings, it's about mine too. I need you to be honest with me. I am being honest, she replied, her voice breaking. I swear on everything I hold dear. I've worked so hard to prove that to you. There was a moment of silence, the weight of our words hanging in the air like an anchor. I could see the sincerity in her eyes, the fear of losing everything we had been working for. But the sting of betrayal still lingered, casting a long shadow over her declarations. Then what do we do? I asked, my voice softening. How do we handle this? I'll block his number. I don't want him in my life anymore, she said, determination shining through her tears. I'll do whatever it takes to show you that I'm serious about us. I love you and I want to make this work. As she spoke, I felt the walls I had built around my heart begin to crack. I wanted to believe her, I really did, but the road ahead would require more than just promises. It would take action and commitment from both of us. Blocking him is a start, I said finally, but we need to set boundaries. We can't keep avoiding the past. It's too raw, too open. She nodded, a glimmer of hope shining through her eyes. I agree. We need to be transparent with each other moving forward. No more secrets, no more running away. With that, we began the process of building a new foundation, one that would be built on honesty and accountability. It wouldn't be easy, but at that moment, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I was willing to confront my insecurities and fears, and Sarah was ready to prove her commitment to our marriage. In the following weeks, we took proactive steps to move forward. We set boundaries regarding our communication, ensuring that we would always share our feelings, no matter how difficult they were. We attended therapy together, and I continued to journal my experiences, processing my emotions in a healthy way. Slowly, trust began to rebuild. Sarah's actions confirmed her words. She was determined to prove her love for me, and I couldn't deny that I was starting to believe in us again. We spent more quality time together, focusing on rebuilding the connection that had been lost. Yet, there were still moments of doubt. Every so often, I'd catch myself glancing at her phone, feeling that familiar knot of anxiety tighten in my stomach. But I was learning to breathe through those moments, reminding myself that healing takes time. One night as we lay in bed together, I turned to her and asked, "Do you think we'll ever get to a point where this doesn't hurt anymore?" Sarah looked thoughtful for a moment before answering. "I think we will, but it will take work from both of us. We've been through hell and back, but I believe in us." Her words settled over me like a warm blanket, and I felt a sense of peace wash over me. The journey had been long and painful, and we still had a distance to cover, but I was willing to fight for our marriage. As time went on, I learned to embrace vulnerability. I realized that it was possible to love deeply while also protecting my heart. I was still healing, but I was committed to walking this path with Sarah. Together, we were learning what it meant to trust again, to love without fear, and to move toward a brighter future. In the end, I learned that love is not only about the grand gestures, but also about the small, everyday choices we make to support and uplift one another. Betrayal may have shaken the foundation of our marriage, but it had also given us the chance to grow and evolve as partners. While the memory of Sarah's betrayal will always be a part of our story, it no longer defines us. We are rebuilding, brick by brick, and together, we are creating something stronger than we had before. I have faith that we will continue to heal, and as we do, I hold on to the hope that love can triumph over even the deepest wounds.